Welcome back to the Sean Jany Podcast. On today's episode, I talk to my good friend Remmi Ellis. Today, Remmi and I talk about finance and news that makes you money. So check it out. Welcome to Sean Jany Podcast, guys. I got my good friend Remmi Ellis. Remmi, can you please introduce yourself for everybody?
How's it going, everyone? Thank you, Sean, for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on. I like what you got going on here with the podcast, so it's an honor to be on it's an honor to be on this episode. So, for those of you who don't know, my name is Remmi Ellis. I've known Sean for several years. So great to be on the podcast. Former teammates, yeah, it's great to be on the podcast. So, like Sean said, my name is Remmi Ellis. I live in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I lived in New England my whole life, so. 23 years old. I work at an asset manager in sales. And the reason Sean brought me on today is because I publish videos to YouTube. I write blog posts. I post IGTVs. I'm currently writing a book, but I'm dedicated all this content to personal finance and personal growth. And I've been building a personal brand for the past several years. So that's a brief introduction.
Yeah, well, perfect. To go off that, why did you start your YouTube channel, and why did you decide, personal finance is the way for you to go?
Yeah. So originally, started my channel back in 2018, and originally, so even I was late to the YouTube craze. But originally, I realized that video and visual media was going to be the medium of the future. I think I realized that people want to watch, listen, and hear what's being given to them more so than reading moving into the future. I think it's just easier for people to consume that content. And I think that even with reading, I think people are choosing audiobooks and things like that. So, and I think you can't deny the success that YouTube and platforms of the like have had. I think it's up to like 1 trillion. I think every day there's 1 trillion views on YouTube. Just general as a baseline there. So
yeah, I agree with you completely because I'm on YouTube every single day.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm literally refreshing my page, just trying to digest more content. Sometimes I watch things that are just funny, just to laugh. But then a lot of it's just trying to engage and trying to get content for news or trying to get content in financing. Just learning as many people's views on how they do finance and why they do things a particular way. That's much easier for me visually than it is through reading. I still read. I read a lot.
Sure.
I read a lot. I do a lot of. I do the audiobooks, but I would say most of my content is definitely through YouTube.
Yeah, and it's incredible the success it's had through, like you said, news, sports, entertainment. Like it's just very widespread, and a lot of people have taken there to share their opinions. So I kind of realized that I wanted to have this footprint on the platform and just have a catalog myself of visual media. To first of all just build awareness of who I am, but also share that unique message. So
Yeah, you're 100% right. And one of your videos, I went through all your videos and I enjoyed them. In one of your videos, you talked about the strategy of saving money. Rule number one was figuring out what your purpose was for saving all this money.
yeah.
And I guess my question, what is your purpose? I don't think you went on, you kind of speak in, you speak to the audience rather than ever
Sure.
bringing it to yourself. But since this episode's about you, I want you to, tell, why do you think it's important to save $10,000 and what do you look to accomplish with that?
Yeah, that's a good observation. And when I made that video, I think my number one purpose to saving that early on was to just prove to myself that I could. I literally wanted to see that number in my bank account. I wanted to see those digits in my bank account, which I think is different for a lot of people. I think most people save money with this, with a goal in mind, with an item or something that they want to purchase, like a car or a home. My goal really started out as kind of a self competition to see, how big can I grow this thing, and it's transitioned, since then into different goals, such as owning property, things like that, owning assets that work for me. But I think early on it was proving to myself that I could do it. Yeah.
So what's your thought process when it comes to saving? Are you still kind of in that, I'm trying to save as much as my income as possible, or is it just more like, I'm gonna enjoy some of it, but I'm also, has your mindset shifted? Um,
Yeah, it definitely has. I think my reasoning and my purpose now is more so to be able to provide myself and also loved ones, true life experiences or
mhm.
memories. I think that's something that's really important that you can forget about going through your day-to-day life is forgetting to experience life. So I think first of all to experience things and then also to have security in life. So we all know how unpredictable life is. So with money, you can combat
Yeah.
some of that unpredictability that pops up, when you're in a place that's secure. So I would say it definitely has evolved over time, and now I'm
Hmm.
more of in the mindset of creating a legacy, making sure everyone I love is set. So
I agree with you. Um, I saw a recent stat. It was during COVID. So the American savings rate went from, I want to say, around 8%. It was in the low single digits, upwards up to like 33%. Obviously we're not going out, we're not purchasing. But I guess even before COVID, why do you think Americans struggled, adults our age or just people in general struggle to save? Is it because, you have a business degree, or what's the reason?
yeah, I think that there might be a lack. I think there might be a gap in understanding that money is this resource. It's just a tool. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of people right now, especially our age, we're trading, you know, very, one to one. We're trading time with money. We're trading an hour of work for X many dollars. So I think when you understand that money is just a tool, and you can start to find ways to, make money when you're not necessarily there putting, punching the clock in there for 8 hours, 9 hours, whatever it is that you do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and when you understand that there's ways to do that, especially now, with the internet, with the emergence of social media and things like that, there's just so many ways that you can create wealth for markets and put yourself in a good position financially.
Yeah, I agree with you, because for me, at first I was like, how can I either get another job or, find ways to create more income?
Right.
And I guess the better I've gotten at figuring out how to get other streams of income, the more I figure out, okay, well, how much is my time worth now? You know, if there's a certain task, like, is that going to be worth my whatever you think your hourly rate is as an individual? Is
Right.
that task going to be worth that? For example, say if I'm mowing the lawn or something, say that takes me an hour. Is there something I could be doing that's more productive in that hour that's going to make me more money? Like, if I could do something for an hour that's going to make me 40 and then hire someone that'll cut my lawn for 20, then
Right.
I'm obviously going to take that profit. So I guess, yeah, that mind shift of figuring out what are you worth, what's your hourly rate, not what someone tells you your hourly rate is, but what you think your hourly rate is. And then
Mhm.
how do you figure out, and then your only goal is just make sure that you're never getting paid less than your desired hourly rate.
Yeah. And I think too, the question you had earlier about purpose, I think a lot of people might not have that purpose,
Mm,
front of mind every day. If it is for a specific, goal, if it is for specific items such as a car or a house, how can you break that down? So there's that big number. Let's say it's 20,000 for the car. How can you break
exactly.
that down into, pieces that are manageable, pieces that make sense for you and your income? Um,
Hmm.
and also, what's the timeline? Do you have, is it something that you got to save for? Do you have a year? Do you have 6 months? Do you have 5 years? I think just understanding the situation and understanding like your own abilities going into it, I think that will definitely help people our age with savings goals and things like that.
Was there a specific piece of content, a YouTube video or a book that kind of got you motivated to be like, this is what drives me? Um,
Yeah, and it's funny because it's not. a personal finance book per se, but it's a book that I just think I think everyone should read it. I'll definitely put it on everyone's reading list, and that is Robert Greene, 48 Laws of Power. And that kind of looks at life as this dynamic where people who have power and people who have influence can make things happen and control things and influence people that people that are lacking those things, they just can't. That book really opened my eyes to the type of thinking that winners are thinking. Historical winners, people in history that really made their mark. Which is, I think all of us want to be remembered. So learning things that have worked in the past and applying it to your own life has been really helpful. So I'd say 48 Laws of Power. Yeah. Was there one particular piece of content, a book or something that got you in the mindset of that?
Well, I guess for me, it's each book I read, I guess, is specific towards whatever. So the first book I read that made me love real estate was this book by Brandon Turner called How to Invest with Low or No Money Down. And so basically, he outlines in this whole book how you can start getting in real estate with really almost no money. And so I was living in a rinky-dink, not a great apartment in Portland, Maine. It was a 2-bedroom with my best friend, and he was charging us like $1,200 a month. And it looked like every time someone moved in or out, all he did was barely clean it and then shove someone else in, and he would upcharge the rent. When we moved out, it went from $1,200 to like $1,400. And I was only there for a year. And so it got me to thinking, I'm like, if he's able to charge me this much on top of it was a 3-unit on top of those units, so he's got to be making at least 5-6K a month. And so it just got me to the point where like this type of income is so passive. Besides, as long as you put systems in place, everything's going to take care of itself. So that book really got me into real estate investing. Obviously, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Actually, the first time I read that was in our personal finance class back at Plymouth. The professor made us read that book. I read that book in like a day. I devoured that. I think that's everyone's first book.
Definitely, that's a common one.
Yeah, it's a classic. It's a staple. I have people, like, when people ask me for advice on how to invest or how to do X, Y, and Z, I always test out like how serious they are. So I'll be like, hey, go read this book, or I'll suggest them, hey, read this book, and I want to see, are they come back to me with questions about the book and looking for more knowledge, or are they gonna not read the book and probably won't even come back to me ask anything, because I'm just gonna say read the book. So that's kind of, I think, a good way to test people how serious they want to be and how motivated they are. It's just by like, read this book, because books have information. I send YouTube videos as well. I'm like, watch this YouTube video, and it's like, ask me questions about afterwards if you still have questions. But like, this person, I think, spent the time writing it down or making a video to
address whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. So like, we live in an era where there's so much information, like so much. You could trust me, you don't need to come to me unless you went through the information and you're still confused. And then we could kind of together, ink out make sure everything is smooth. But ultimately, you don't need me. You can. It's out there.
Yeah, right.
So let's shift onto investing.
Sure.
What's your mode of investing? How do you invest your money ultimately?
Yeah. So I, from day one, I've been, thinking long term, and I think that for me that means 20 years. So I'm 23 right now. What's life going to look like when I'm 43?
Our birthdays are soon. Your birthday's the 23rd, right?
Birthday's coming right up. Yeah, so I'm almost 20, almost 24. But I'm always thinking long term with my investments. So I know that things like things like day trading, things like options have been getting a lot of attention, a lot of popularity in the last few years. But it's just not something that I feel is congruent with the type of person I am and my goals. So I'm kind of the mindset that when I find something, when I find whatever it is, whether it's a security, a specific stock or an investment, that I am going to be holding it for at least 5 years. So that's kind of my mindset when going into it. And so how I invest, I have a retirement account through my work, 401k there. And I also have an individual account through Robinhood. So although I'm not, trading every day, day trading, I do use Robinhood. Really convenient, super easy to use, super user friendly, and I haven't had an issue with it yet. So
Robinhood
that's
for me, Robinhood for me is like it's so easy to use. It's like, I don't even know. It's like the app is like crack, honestly. It's so easy and so accessible. And
yeah.
like you feel it gives you kind of this, like, especially with all the colors and
Oh my
everything, like
goodness, yeah.
every time you make a trade, it literally like, yay, like it
I
literally
know.
gives you all this positive reinforcement. I was like, so I can definitely see how easy it is for some people to like, oh, I'm gonna day trade or I'm gonna do this on Robinhood. Because they just make it so user friendly, and I understand why they have such a huge market segment of our age group, because
Definitely.
they've dumbed down investing to the base, I think, to a level where it doesn't matter if you never invested a day of your life, or it doesn't matter if you invested every day of your life. Like, you can use this platform.
Right. Yeah. It reminds me of Apple, in the way that they make their products. It's,
Mm,
it's user friendly. It's easy to use, you know what I mean? Anyone can understand it. Um, smooth, like you said, like everything is green. It makes you
yeah,
feel like everything's going right.
yeah.
But yeah, very, user friendly for me. But yeah, I haven't had an issue with it yet.
I suggest looking up. I personally, I have a Robinhood. I have a Webull, which is like Robinhood. It's just, it gives you a
Okay.
lot more information. Webull is a good one if you want to
Yeah.
do, if you want to buy individual stocks. But my favorite one to use
hmm
is called M1 Finance.
Okay.
And
Yeah. Tell me about that.
so M1 they kind of do it a little differently, where you'll build a portfolio into a pie. And so basically, you'll be like, obviously, a pie, 100%. The pie will be 100%, and you could break up the pie into as many different segments as you want.
Yeah.
And for example, I'll have, say, 25% of the pie is going to be Apple, 25% of the pie will be Tesla or whatnot,
Yeah.
and it'll buy it'll buy fractional shares of that company. So
Okay.
say I put $1,000 in. I'm not gonna do just $1,000 of Tesla. It'll do 25% that will go to Apple, 25% that will go to Tesla, 25% that will go to Amazon, whichever stocks you decide to pick. You go 5% and stuff like that. So you try to get as diverse as possible, and
Yeah.
they have some kind of some pies that are already created that you could look at for help. But I like that one because, one, I'm able to just put in $1,000 and buy a bunch of fractional shares, keep my money diversified, and that way, if one stock's doing poorly, another one will typically will do a little better.
Yeah.
um, Hopefully, the bond market will do a little better to where it's useful, but bonds are pointless
Right.
at right now. So I really like M1 because of that aspect.
Yeah.
We Robinhood, you could buy fractional shares in Robinhood. It's just that you're going to have to go to each individual kind of company, like, oh, buy me 0.6 whatever percent. Robin
Yeah. Yeah.
M1 does the whole thing for you. Just make the pie, deposit the money, and then they go off and buy it. They go and buy it.
Yeah.
So
So it sounds like, once you have that allocation, a lot of it is done for you,
exact
which is nice. Yeah.
yeah, that's what, because I agree with you. I'm very long term
Yeah.
with my investing, and I like it because, yeah, I put in the money. to the stocks that I believe in, and then I kind of could forget about it. I don't care if it goes up. I don't care if it goes
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
Like if the long run's gonna go up, you could it'll rebalance it for you. Say one stock, is doing really well, and it's becoming too big of what you say. It can sell part. It can sell part of that and buy into companies that aren't doing so well, so you can get
Hmm.
more of those companies when they're down. So it really does. It makes investing simple for you if you're a long-term investor.
Yeah.
So you can just make the pie. If you like it, if you can go off and change it. So I really like that one. But I use all of them just to see what they're all about.
Yeah, I would say about Robinhood, I think it could improve in terms of research capabilities. I think that's something that could be improved there, but we'll
I
see
agree with
as
you.
time goes on. Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So my last question. What are your goals? What are your goals for the channel and the
Yeah.
finance and everything?
Yeah. So I think it starts out for me with my subject matter. So it's that personal finance piece combined with personal growth. It just made sense to me because of my interest in both those two topics. So my major in college was finance. I work in an investment firm, so I'm kind of all around finance and money in my day-to-day life anyway. So why not, talk about it, share it with others. So the personal growth and development side is just something that I've always been interested in, growing, as a person, doing things that actively increase my capacity to achieve and learn and grow. It's just something that has always been a part of who I am. But definitely, my goals for the channel are just to get more exposure, promote myself, and share videos that really resonate with my audience and people. And really, it's just an outlet for me to be helpful and to share my unique perspective
What's
going
the,
forward.
what's been the most difficult part about it?
I would say the most difficult part about being a YouTuber is consistency. So
Mm.
you can always see, if you're on that schedule, if you say you upload once a week every Thursday, if you go 2 months, 8 videos, you hit every Thursday, you'll see, the engagement and the, you know, you'll see everything start to compound in terms of views, subs, new subs, comments, just audience retention and things like that. You'll see it when you're consistent, but when you fall off, when life happens, when there's other things going on, and maybe you miss you miss uploading, the algorithm doesn't like that. So I would
No,
say
no.
I would just say being consistent is the hardest part, but it's also the part that's most rewarding, if you're able to stay on. Um, yeah,
I agree with you, but I think I feel as though with finance, it's hard to find, I think, original things because I think with finance,
definitely.
the rules don't change. You know, like finance, I think is nimble in a sense, but and it has obviously a lot of conversations you could talk about. But once you talk about those things, and then you can kind of see it with some of the YouTubers, it's trying to figure out, okay, what is something new I could talk about? I already made a
Right.
credit card video, I already did this, stuff like that. And how do I keep people still engaged? Um, my favorite YouTuber is Graham Stephan and
Yeah,
Meet,
sure.
Meet Kevin. Graham, I love Graham's content. And he even talks about it that it's kind of tough trying to figure out new things. And you can see that he'll kind of reiterate some stuff. He'll make a 2020 version of a video that he made in 2019.
Yeah.
Um, and I think Meet Kevin has kind of shifted in to the news aspect because news is
Mm,
constantly changing.
yeah.
And so he kind of, I think, and he uploads like 3 times a day.
Yeah.
So he's going to upload, I think 1 or 2 news videos a day, and then one kind of either about stocks or about real estate, kind of what his
Hmm.
main core, what his main channel was about to originally start with. But I think he's able to figure out, and you can see it with his, the increase of his subscribers. Obviously, you're right with the being consistent and constantly uploading and constantly being, giving people new content.
Yeah.
But I think he's figured out an avenue with the news to be able to provide people just content, because that's really it. You're correct. You nailed it on the head with YouTube. It's just content, content, content.
Yeah, you said something interesting about producers and YouTubers coming up with ideas, and I think that, like you said, if you search how to get rich, you'll find 10 million videos on people talking about wealth and how to accumulate wealth. But I'd say probably 80% of that is all more or less the same, just people saying it,
Definitely.
in different words. So I think it's really about finding that unique angle and finding something that people, maybe it's something that people are already talking about, but an angle that people just aren't expecting. Or I think that now more than ever, there's a need to really polarize your audiences and give them something that they can't get anywhere else.
That's completely right. All right, so I'm gonna let you take control of the show.
Yeah. I got some questions here for you.
All right.
That I want to ask you. So, first one, kick it off with, obviously, so we're recording this in fall of 2020. How has the last 6 to 8 months changed your mindset with everything, with lockdown, with the pandemic? How has that changed life for you?
It has 2020 has been financially the best year of my life,
Okay.
but trying to up here with being with happiness and stuff like that, that's kind of been the main battle. Financially wise, it's shifted my mindset and kind of like, it doesn't matter if the world is going up, down, sideways, there's always a way to make money. You just have to be looking for it.
Yep.
There's always money to be made. People made millions in the 08, 09 crisis. People
Mm,
made millions during the Great Depression. So it doesn't matter what's going on in the world, you just have to figure out, okay, this, whatever avenue I was doing before, you have to be able to pivot. If I was doing this and now that's no longer there, how do I pivot and be able to do something else? I think a lot of people struggle with the pivoting aspect, or aren't willing to pivot.
definitely.
I think it's definitely tougher for. Actually, here's a great story. I wanted to get my fence done during COVID, and I had a guy out from Lowe's or Home Depot come by,
Yeah.
chit chat. He was a talkative old man, and I was kind of telling him, I do real estate and stuff like that. He was asking me questions, and he talked about, he was very like, oh, make sure you pay off all your debt, blah blah blah, X, Y, and
Yeah.
Z. And then I asked him like, why? And he was like, he told me that in 08, 09, when the market went belly up for real estate investors, he lost everything.
Man.
Um, and he wasn't old enough, or he wasn't able to pivot, or wasn't willing to pivot. He wasn't like, once it kind of went belly up, and rather than figuring out, okay, how do I make this still work, he just kind of gave it up and just said, you know what, fine, whatever. Let me just work at Lowe's or Home Depot,
Yeah.
make a decent wage. But
Sure.
he wasn't willing to pivot, and so it kind of, I listened to his advice, where it's like, debt is a dangerous tool where it can help you and hurt you. You just have to be able to wield it correctly. It's like a sword or a knife. You could cut yourself, but if you know how to use it, you could either make really great food or cut someone else.
Yeah.
So
I think
that's
that's
how my mindset shifted.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point you just made about the old man in the fence. So he had some advice for you, and you kind of took it, for what it was. You took you took the piece of it that made sense to you, right?
Hmm.
That piece about debt and how it can hurt you, how it can help you. And I think that's what people need to do more of, is you get this message from someone else. You might not agree with the whole message, but finding what makes sense for you and applying that. I think that's you know what personal development is all about, is seeing people around you with experiences that you might not have, but being able to take that and apply it to your own life. So
Yeah,
that's it.
exactly.
That's a good story.
Yeah, if someone, I think, especially if you think life is a track, there's going to be people who are ran kind of where you're about to run. And so being able to take the knowledge that they've gained going through it, either failing or doing it successfully, and understanding how to take the good or bad with it and be able to kind of go through with the knowledge now, because it's much easier to go through with the pre-knowledge than it is just to kind of go blank where you're guessing at everything. So definitely you should listen to anyone who is willing to give you advice.
Yeah. So speaking of advice, tell me about your business and just how you've been able to build wealth and the things you've done since graduating college.
So I've kind of done it in a multitude of ways. Obviously, I have my full-time job as an accountant, which the lion's share of my income comes from. But
Mm,
I also have done it through real estate. I bought in the last 2 years. I bought two properties, a three-unit apartment building and the single-family house I live in now. And so the multi-unit is I get a good share of income from there. I also rent out my home here whenever necessary. So over the summer, I had two renters, so that brought in extra income. I also have done it through kind of side businesses or kind of side gigs or hustles, whatever you want to call it, where I do these 3D Matterport scans, where you kind of go into, if a real estate agent wants to sell a home, I'll go in and with this kind of fancy looking camera and kind of take scans of the building. And so this it's basically all the system. So the system will make a complete 3D render of the
yeah,
building. So have you ever been on realtor.com and they say, oh, we have a 3D tour you can take?
yeah,
Basically, I would make those. Um, and so I'd get, say 400, 500, 600 bucks for, doing a scan. And
yeah,
that would be, I definitely business went up during COVID, because just nobody wanted to go into any buildings. Now in the state of Maine, people kind of are less scared. So that's another source of income. Right now, me and my friends, I've kind of teamed up with them or joined them on a kind of an entertainment business, and
okay,
so they throw events, and they had a bunch of events lined up, and so right now we're trying to figure out and testing ways to kind of I think this is a great period right now for them, us as a company, is figuring out what other ways or what other avenues do we get engagement? Do we get content? Do we get, where in the future we can use it?
right,
And once COVID opens up, we'll definitely throw more events because I think that's definitely obviously a moneymaker, but that's what the business entails. But if we could, if we start providing kind of different content to artists, with being able to create these packages, be able to do these website ideas and things, and other products for artists and for people, um, we'll basically eventually be able to be not just an events business, but pivot whenever we want to, because ultimately you're trying to make your business as you want to put in all the work up front, so then at the tail end of it, it's running on its own.
right,
It's just, we're there. If anyone asks us any questions or need anything, we can say yes or no. But right now we're kind of building that up. So that's kind of how I've been able to build wealth and just different streams of income.
yeah. That's that's really interesting just to see, where it comes from and the different avenues you've been able to create wealth, therein.
Ultimately, I think it's just being able to do things that you enjoy.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
I'll never go into, either a partnership or deal or really anything. I will never spend my money on something I don't enjoy or invest in something I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
That's obviously, and then I make money from, I have a lot of dividend companies that pay out dividends.
Yep.
So I make some money. I make some money there. But ultimately, the companies that do dividends or even the growth companies that I have, and I've said this in my podcast before, I only buy businesses that I personally use or have experience with.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's a good life rule there.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, I know you mentioned when you're talking about M1, you mentioned Tesla. Tell me about your experience with Tesla. Yeah, I'd love to know everything about your
Yes, my
Tesla.
my Tesla Model 3 Black, aka named Kobe.
Okay.
I bought Kobe in June, kind of as a so basically, quick backstory. My sister does track down LSU, and she wanted a car, and she's like, "Can we go car shopping? Can we go car shopping?" And COVID was kind of going on, but she
Yeah.
obviously needed a car. So I was like, "How about this? You can buy my car, and I'll just get myself a new car." And so she's like, "Great," but she took my 2017 Ford Fusion down in college. And then I was like, "You know what? This is my opportunity. I make good money. You know, I decided to splurge. I didn't really splurge, but I got myself a brand new Tesla 2020
Yeah.
Tesla Model 3, and the experience has been phenomenal. Obviously, it does everything a car should do. Basically, it's my iPhone on wheels. Um,
Wow.
so the autopilot is it's funny every time people talk to me about it or ask me about it, they're like, you really trust your car to drive for you? And obviously being a numbers guy, I'm like, statistically, my car is a 10 times better driver than me. So yes, I'm gonna let my car drive for me. One thing I learned about I learned about myself as a driver is that I hug that the line on the right side,
Yeah.
like that white line. I hug it like very, and so when I go on autopilot, my car literally goes like this because it's like, why are you that close to that
Yeah.
line?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not the best. I'm not the best driver in the world, especially compared to my car. So I love it for the autopilot because it definitely driver fatigue is a real thing.
Hmm.
Um, my experience with Tesla with any issues with the car has been phenomenal. Look, the car has like no maintenance. Basically, I just need to get new tires and change out the filter.
Yeah.
Everything else, it's either covered by warranty or it just doesn't need to happen. Like I don't need to get an oil change. I don't need
Yeah.
to. There's no tune-up that needs to happen. Check up the engine. It's
Right.
it's just the most simple car in the world. I think, and plus it's an electric vehicle, so I feel as though I'm helping out a little bit trying to with the renewable energy space. So ultimately,
Definitely.
I recommend it to everybody.
That's good to know. I'm always interested to hear people's stories on that. So I think it's different with whoever you ask, but
Yeah,
appreciate your insight on that.
if you think about it, Tesla doesn't do any advertisement. So the fact that when you see their quarterly earnings and the fact that they're selling more and more cars, you could clearly tell that okay, people love their cars so much that they're like, "Yo, you need to get this car."
Yeah.
And so it's really the sales are really just word of mouth, and people finally like, okay, I can finally save up for it. Obviously, the car goes really fast. Being electric, it just moves like that. But it's really it has kind of a pretty dope business model where we make a product so good that we don't need to even tell you about it. You buy it, you'll love it, and then you'll tell everyone else to buy it.
Yeah. That's true. Because I mean, you see one on the street, you're like, that thing is smooth. Like,
Yeah,
it looks good. Like it's good. Yeah, like you said, it's good for the environment. So win-win there.
definitely, I love it.
So how do you view social media as a platform for communication and business? And is that something that you use?
My whole perception changed after I watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix.
Okay, tell me about that.
So basically, the social media companies are very good at what they do.
Yep.
And obviously, all of them are smart Harvard people. And so I think for me, I'm looking to figure out ways to limit my social media use
Mm,
because I think I am one, they obviously know way too much about me. So I'm obviously spending money from them telling me what I should spend on. So they understand and they'll change kind of your thinking process, not like by a lot, but just tiny bit.
marginal, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what businesses love. And that, as a business owner or as anyone, as a business aspect, yes, please get me on social. I definitely agree. Get on social media.
Yeah.
You're gonna see the most people. You're gonna reach out to most people at the cheapest cost.
Yeah.
TV ads are expensive. When back then newspaper ads were really expensive. So with social media, the fact that you're guaranteed to reach a nearly over 1 billion people, there's more people online than that have toilets. That's That's a serious thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's huge, but it comes with its downsides because you'll see across the world that different countries, they'll lose the fabric of themselves through Facebook or through other social media platforms because you could kind of insulate yourself in a bubble where you'll only be friends with people with like-minded people like you. You'll only, retweet or repost or share things that you agree with.
Right.
So and the algorithm obviously sees that, my YouTube feed only shows me videos that I'm interested. It's not gonna
Yeah.
be like,
Yep.
what you think of this? It's gonna be like, I know you like this. Um, so it's super, super easy for us to get very insulated to where we're not even willing to see other people's point of view. So I'm trying to kind of, I'm never gonna cut out social media, but I'm gonna try to manage it the best I know how, where I'm still willing to see other people's point of views and still engage with people as a society.
Right. So manage it, limit it more so
Hmm.
than eliminate it.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
I think that's a good perspective to have on it, just because it's an endless scroll if you let it become that. So
Yeah.
there's a place for it, definitely for businesses, for individuals too, to stay connected, things like that. But yeah, in moderation.
Exactly. You definitely got to learn how to have self-control over it.
Yeah. Last question I have for you is, what is one lesson you wish you had learned earlier?
Ooh, one lesson that I wish I learned earlier. Oh, well, that wealth and money are just a game, and me being competitive and me liking playing games. I wish I wish kind of school taught me personal finance more, um, and because I felt as though I think a lot of the knowledge that I try to teach on on the podcast, and even I think you're trying to teach on it's just stuff we don't get in school.
Yeah,
And so I wish ultimately, I I wish school wasn't designed like a factory where get these kids in, mold them to, somewhat, and then just kind of push them out. You know, I think schools do poor job of one figuring out what the student loves to do, like what are your skills and what are your craft, where can we get you to thrive in society. It's more of, here's the stuff that you're never going to use. I've
right.
never used anything about biology. I'm not saying you shouldn't learn biology.
Sure, sure.
You should be a well-rounded adult. But I'm saying maybe take one class on biology, and then take stuff. If you're really good at art, maybe have more art classes than other stuff. And then
Yeah,
I think you should always have some finance, because if you love art, you need to figure out a way. How do I monetize that art? How do I be able to make that
exactly.
a living? Um, it's ultimately, I think everyone should learn how to run a business as well, and learn how to sell.
Yeah,
Even if you're never going to sell a product, how do you sell yourself during an interview?
absolutely.
That's a skill you just don't learn unless like, luckily we're both business majors. I was an accounting major, so I had to take a sales class and stuff
Yeah,
like that. But if you're say again an art major, you might take one math class just to get your general education out, but you're never gonna learn how to sell your business, how to sell your art.
exactly.
So I wish the school structure was a little different, to where it molded people based off their skills, because I think every human being has a skill or a talent that benefits us all.
Definitely. Yeah, everyone's got that unique talent or ability or skill that yeah, that they should go after. Definitely.
So I'm gonna shift towards news, and we'll make this. Well, I don't know how much time we have left, um, but I'll ask you, how is that work from home environment lifestyle for you during
Yeah.
COVID?
So early on, I'd say halfway through March of 2020, my company said that's it. Everyone go home, work from home. So the transition for me was pretty seamless in terms of work. So I took all my equipment home. I'm able to work, on my monitors, on my laptop, and that type of thing. Stay
Hmm.
connected with the team. Personally, there were some dark days early on, March and April, just trying to figure out how, how I can effectively communicate and, just be okay with the new reality. But as time went on, I figured out ways to be comfortable, to kind of get my head, because I wasn't able to physically go somewhere and get into work mode. I'm able to now just turn that light on, turn that switch on in my head, where okay, now it's time to work, and when it's not time to work, I shut it off, because it's easy to let work draw on into the night when you're working from home.
I agree with you.
So that's definitely something I've learned. But all in all, it's been a good experience, and I'm very fortunate to still be, to still be employed, still be working full time.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. The first month or so was definitely how do I, what's my new schedule? How am I going to be productive? How do I communicate with my manager? How do they prefer X, Y, and Z? Um, I prefer, it's weird. Before I used to work from home, before I used to go work in the office, I remember I'd be driving to work. It's like, I can't wait till I could just work from home. I can't wait till I could just work from home, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And then COVID's like, okay, here's your wish. And then you're like, oh, okay, I take that back. I love working from home, but I think everything in life is moderation. I would love,
Exactly.
I want to go back to the office in the sense of kind of that connection of,
Hmm.
go back to the office for 2, 3 days a week and then work from home 2, 3 days a week,
Yeah.
uh, on a rotation, whatever the case may be, because I definitely think it helps sometimes with working from home. Oh, I need to get stuff done. I'm busy, don't talk to me. And there's no one to distract me here. Versus in the office, it's very easy to get distracted. But
Oh yeah.
that personal engagement is huge. I do miss that.
Yeah, the social aspect is just, I mean, we're wired to feed off of that and to need that in some senses. So that was a big adjustment for me, but as time goes, has gone on, I think it's gotten easier to manage.
All right, so we're gonna rifle these through kind of what's
Yeah,
going
yeah.
on. So Monday, Trump was on day 5 of catching COVID. So Trump caught COVID, I think, the beginning of October. So he's on his 12th day now, and it was fun. I kept getting news reports that he was taking a lot of different medicines. One was called Remdesivir. I can't even pronounce it. He took an antibody cocktail. There's a bunch of things he took, and it kind of makes me scared. I'm like, do you trust? Would you trust a vaccine? Say if they said, in 2 weeks, hey, we'll have a vaccine ready in 2 weeks. All you gotta do is go to your local. Would you take that vaccine?
The way that coronavirus has played out in the world, but especially the United States, um, and first of all, misinformation that was shared, and then updated information, and then oh wait, now the
Yeah,
information we
CDC.
gave you is false.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that
yeah.
that really resonated with me too. We still don't know what we're dealing with, so if they were to come and say, yeah, we have a vaccine, like 99% success rate, I'm not going to be in that first batch, no way. I'll see how it goes. I think for young people like ourselves, um I think we're at an advantage. I don't think that's something we have to necessarily worry about. I think that the issue for us might be getting it and transmitting it to someone that isn't well equipped.
To handle it.
Yeah, so I wouldn't I wouldn't be part of that first group. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I don't think I would. I hasn't like you have to fight me just to take the flu shot. Like
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
every time I've taken the flu shot, I've gotten sick, and I'm like, what is the point of the flu shot?
Yeah.
Because I was always getting sick after the flu shot.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I should have just not taken the flu shot, gone sick. So
Yeah.
I'm not taking the. I'm not gonna be in the. I agree with you. I'm not gonna be in the first batch of the. If they
Yeah.
were, it's gonna have to be 2022, and I'm gonna have to
Something.
see. and then at that point, I think we'll get enough people taking the shot at that point where I don't even need to take it. So hopefully I never have to take it.
Yeah, right. And it is funny though to see the Bill Gates memes about the his vaccine and taking over the world and stuff like that. But
Yes.
but yeah, I think that anything that comes out, it needs to be well produced, well researched, and I don't think we've had the time, as modern as our medicine is, or advancements and things like that. I think it needs more time.
So I'm gonna rifle off these last two parts. So the oil is really bad. I think they're estimating that only 30% of oil jobs are gonna come back in 2021, and
Yeah.
that's if the price of oil is at 45 barrels. Think about this: if the price of barrels falls to $35 a barrel, only 3% of jobs will come back. Then this has been quite a year. Then a rise in extreme poverty has been reversed through COVID. Um, so extreme poverty is defined as living on an income that's $1.90 or less a day, so $700 a year.
Wow.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so powerful economic growth in China, India allowed for hundreds of millions of people to rise out of that. And then just like that, 88 million people to 115 million people are going to fall into that this year due to the pandemic.
Yeah, it was crazy to see the progression of cases and things like that, and how how lopsided it was in terms of areas of impoverished people and areas of economic and socioeconomic just challenge and obstacle is really eye-opening to see the difference in cases and deaths in those areas and with those certain, whether it be ethnicities or just different groups of people being affected more so. So I think that going forward as a country, we need to put programs in place and find ways to to protect and to build up.
I agree. Yeah, life is a weird thing because the wealth gap, the issue with that, especially with money, is that money compounds itself so easily when you have wealth.
Yeah.
And so you can see that the wealth gap is always going to increase if we don't figure out a way uh, for us to give people more education and more skills to make wealth.
Yeah.
Because the issue is if we just give people the money, it's just going to go right back up to the top.
Right.
Because
Right.
those people up top are giving you the services like
They
Amazon,
understand. Yeah.
yeah, Jeff Bezos at the end of the day is like, you can have all my money. In a month later, I'm gonna have it all back. You're gonna go
Right.
shopping at Amazon. So we need to figure out a way. How do I give people skills and opportunities to be entrepreneurs, to create their own wealth, to boost our economy? Because giving money is not gonna. I don't think is the answer because the rich just get it back.
Yeah,
You
I think
know,
you're right. I think it comes down to having resources, having knowledge and education about wealth and about you know systematic the game, as you said earlier, the game of wealth and the game of life.
all right. So this will be the last question,
All right,
and we'll wrap it up right here.
sounds good.
Is LeBron James the GOAT now since he has 4 championships?
Yes, we're recording this on October the 12th. So last night, the Los Angeles Lakers won the 2019-2020 NBA championship down in Orlando in the bubble. LeBron won his 4th ring, his 4th Finals MVP. Yeah, so I think he's solidified his case as the GOAT, at least for in my eyes and for my generation. I think he's definitely the GOAT.
So for me, I guess I'm called one of those LeBron haters, not because I hate LeBron. I'm happy that he succeeds. It's that he's always been an obstacle for my teams to succeed. So
Yeah,
obviously, he's always been in the East for the majority of his career. So I
yeah,
just didn't like him, or I didn't want to see him succeed because I'm a Celtics fan. I only want to see the Celtics do well. I'm one of those athletes where or one of those sports fans like I don't like Tom Brady left the Patriots. I don't like Tom Brady anymore. I'm ride or die for my team.
Yep.
So I agree with you. For our generation, LeBron James is the greatest player of all time. Like we're gonna tell our kids,
yeah.
that the true GOAT is LeBron James. Like look at the numbers, look at what he did.
Yeah.
And if MJ is strong enough to be able to survive, obviously, because the people who are talking about the debate are the people who lived through MJ's era, who are holding on to MJ. But eventually, those people are going to retire. So it's like now it's going to be us sitting up there and be like, I don't care. Like if it was about if it was about rings, it'd be Bill Russell, right?
Bill Russell, yeah.
So
yeah,
so
we'll be the old heads saying LeBron's a GOAT, and the new people will be saying, yeah, no, our guy's the GOAT, whoever that next guy is.
Exactly. It's gonna be never ending. But LeBron, congratulations on number 4.
Oh yeah.
I'm happy that they did it for Kobe. Like
oh yeah. Perfect tribute there, perfect ending.
But hey, I really enjoyed you having me on the show. It was really fun. I'll wrap it up here because I don't know how much time we got left. I rifled through everything. What's the biggest takeaway you want your listeners to get from this?
Yeah, so no, I appreciate you having me on. Always a pleasure to catch up. I thoroughly enjoyed my time on the air here with you. But my wish is that just anyone who listens to this show or any of my content, your content included, just gain a different perspective, a different way to think about their own finances, the way that they see money and their relationship with money too. So hopefully learn something and be entertained in the process.
Well, thank you guys. I want to say follow Remmi on his YouTube channel, Remmi Ellis. He's also on Instagram, Remmi.Ellis. So he makes it easy for you to find him. Click the like button, subscribe to both our channels, and thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you, Sean, and thank you everyone out there.